Yeah, I want to expand upon what we did yesterday. So we were doing models with like musicians, right? And our musician model had name, instrument, and age. Right? We go over here. Apps.
Wait, how did you get the table there? That's with SQLite.
That's, yeah, so the platform uses something called SQLite Browser, but there's also a plugin in VS Code. So I think it's just called SQLite.
So you can just download that.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, at the end of this, I can show you guys how to download it. So we had musician, name, instrument, age. Okay. But as we've learned before, we have relationships, right? You know, two tables can be related to each other via like a foreign key, if you guys remember. So let's start actually coding it. So what is another table that we could relate to a musician?
Instrument?
Instrument we could use. Genre is a good one. What else? Those are band. Okay, and the reason I'm doing band is just it's a little bit more conducive to what I want to do, but those would all still work as well. So let's create a band that's also inheriting from models.model. And what does a band have?
Musicians?
Okay.
In their band?
They do. Well, that's true, right?
Oh yeah, name.
So we'll say the name of the band. And what is that?
Model star field.
Yep. Let's say, what's the longest band name? We'll say 100. I can't imagine anyone having a longer band name. Let's see.
I think I do know a band name of that.
Seriously?
Yeah.
They like write an essay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll say genre is another one. And in theory, we could have genre be another model, right? But let's just... Okay. We'll do genre. Let's do like year established. Models. We'll make this a char field too, just because. We could make this an integer field as well, but 4, right? Okay. So we have two models. And in our what we did yesterday, we have Kurt Cobain, Gene Simmons, and Jimmy Page. So let's make their bands, okay? I'm gonna, if I could use some assistance from someone with a laptop to just like Google the stuff for me.
Nirvana. Kiss. Led Zeppelin.
Yes. What about like the year established and stuff?
You're established?
Yeah. Oh, if you know this off the top of your head, I'm gonna be very impressed.
Kurt Cobain is definitely like 1992. Something like that.
No.
When Nirvana was established?
87.
Yeah.
Okay.
87?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, frick.
Band died in 94.
87 through 94.
When was Nevermind released?
Like 93.
Oh.
Okay, so we are just activating the environment, going into the project. I'm going to say Python manage.py run server. All right. Then we're going to go over.
91, actually.
Actually, let's just stay in the shell.
He died in 91?
He died in 94.
But what about 91?
Never mind.
Okay.
That's right, he did.
I'm not telling you never mind. I'm saying like.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Alrighty, so we're in the shell. We're going to say from apps.tannersapp.models import musician. Oh no, let's say we want to create the bands, right? We'll import both. Okay. And remember, we need to import it when we're in the shell. We need to import it before we're able to use it. Right, Ivan? Did you, or was it Miguel? One of you guys had that problem? It was you, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. All right. So. Yeah. I thought it was you, and then you looked at me like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I felt a little insecure. Okay. So we can query this, right? Let's say for m in musician dot objects dot all. We're going to print m.name. Okay? So those are our three musicians we have so far. Let's create their bands. So I'm going to say band.objects.create. Let's see the fields again we had. Okay, we had name equals, let's start off with Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. Genre, we'll just say rock. Yeah.
Or grunge.
Grunge? We'll do grunge. There you go. Year established was 87. And remember, I made this a char field. We could have made this an int field. I just wanted to make it a char field. Ah! What happened?
You didn't migrate.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's go back into the shell. Let's see if we, no, from apps.tanners app.models, import musician dot musician and band.objects.create, name equals Nirvana, genre equals grunge, year established equals 1987. Okay, we just created Nirvana. Let's do the same for Kiss. Okay, and the genre we'll say rock. Is that okay? Or
Hair metal?
is it? They're not like as hair metal. They're more like they're like classic rock. We'll say.
Yeah, classic rock.
They were formed in 73.
Perfect. 73. And then we'll say Led Zeppelin.
No step.
Spell that right? Okay. And then they're also classic rock.
And they are 68.
Okay. So we created it for b in band.objects.all. Print b.name. Okay. Nirvana, Kiss, Led Zeppelin. So, for the time being, what do you think the relationship between band and musician are?
One band for many musicians.
Yes, right? That's how we're going to start off, and then I'm going to introduce Dave Grohl into the mix,
Alright.
and we'll see how that changes things.
Oh, jeez. Many to many.
Exactly, right? So, let's do that. How do we create a relationship in Django? Miguel, you said you're there, right?
Hmm?
Did you just start relationships?
Yeah. Is it making a foreign key?
It is.
Yeah.
It's just going to be another field, right?
Okay.
So, a musician belongs to a band.
Yeah.
So we can make a foreign key that points to band, right? So the musician has an attribute band, which is a models dot foreign key, and we're going to tell it band, and then we have this other on delete equals models dot cascade. Don't worry about this too much. This is just saying like if we delete like an instance, what happens to the relationship, right? So,
It gets deleted.
well, there are different ways to handle it. Yeah, that's like models.cascade. If you're interested, we can go through the API and show you like all the different. Okay, but just when you do delete it, how do we want it to behave? Okay, so we have age, band. Let's start setting up the relationships. What would happen if I just started creating the relationships in the shell right now?
It will give you. It wouldn't let you.
Yeah.
You have to go back and set the default.
Went to migrate. Did I hear migrate? Yep. Went to migrate first. Okay. Python manage.py, make migrations. Let's just do Python. Wait, why not? Oh, because I didn't save it. All right, so you're going to see this thing where it says you're trying to add a non-nullable field band to musician without a default. Okay? So the learning platform goes over this as well, just because you're probably going to see this error. All right, so there's a few things you could do. What I'm going to do right now is just put arguments in the foreign key that says blank equals true, null equals true, which basically just says we don't need any value in this, okay? Because let's just, for example, say, and this kind of makes sense too, because if you have like a musician that's just by themselves, like Taylor Swift, she doesn't really belong to a band, right?
Right.
So,
Taylor Swift.
exactly. So let's just, so in this case, you could do a few different things. You could add a default, but in our case, we can just do, I think they show it down here. Yeah, see, null equals true, yeah. So let's go back. Say blank equals true. No equals true. Okay.
What does blank mean? Just you can
I
set
believe, yeah, I believe that's on when you're actually trying to submit a form. Like null is like on the database level, and then blank is more like on a form submission.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. But don't quote me on that. I just always do blank and null because there's some edge cases. So now, make migrations. Fantastic, we're able to do that. And now let's migrate. Okay. So if we start our shell again, we're gonna say from apps.tanners app.models import musician band. Okay. So just to show you that this works, let's create Taylor Swift. Name equals Taylor Swift. Then what are our instrument age and then band, right? So instrument, we'll just say vocals.
guitar.
Yeah. So what you could end up doing is like when we talked about before, we can make instrument another table and then set up a relationship like a many to many, let's say, or they could have many instruments and instruments can belong to many musicians, right? So we'll just say vocals for now. And the reason I'm doing that is because then when we filter, like based off of guitar, then she won't show up. So I just don't want to confuse the matter. And then age, that's an integer field, right? How old is she? Like 26? 27?
I don't know.
We'll just say 27, it's fine. Okay. 29? Yeah, we can always change it if we wanted to, right? All right.
We've got a little test right now.
Yeah. If someone try to figure, have you guys gotten to CRUD yet? Okay, we'll save that then.
Okay.
All right. So basically, what you would have to do is query the instance, change the field, and save it. Right. Okay. Or there's an update method. Anyways, so we've got musician.objects.create. We just created a new musician, Taylor Swift. Now let's start assigning the bands to the musician. Okay. So let's go to one-to-many. So as you can see in this example, there's a class author and book, right? Every book has an author. So that's a one-to-many. It's as we just did here, foreign key. All right. So let's create a new one. What they do here is they just assign the instance of the band, okay, to the author that you want, or sorry, I'm mixing up the examples. You get the instance of the author that you want, and then you assign that to the author field for the book, okay? So in this, if you use this as an example, what would we do for the musician and band?
Nirvana equals book dot authors dot create title equals Nirvana author equals author dot objects dot get. Or
Okay, let's just write it. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's tell the database that we want to set.
Oh, we already have Nirvana.
Yeah, so let's query Nirvana first. Okay, so we're gonna say Nirvana equals band.objects.get name equal, oh my goodness, Nirvana. Okay? If we print it out, it's an object. If we do dot name, Nirvana. Okay? That all make sense? Perfect. So now we want to query Kurt Cobain. Equals musician.objects.get name equals Kurt Cobain. So now Cobain.name, Kurt Cobain. We now have to assign the band. Does anyone want to guess what the syntax would be?
Objects.get. Oh, no.
Band.object?
Kurt Cobain equals musician.objects.get. Band equals.
So we'll just start writing it, okay?
Yeah.
So we know we have access to all of Kurt Cobain's properties, right? By doing kurtcobain.name. If we did kurtcobain.band, nothing, it's empty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if we did kurtcobain.band equals Nirvana? And this Nirvana corresponds to this Nirvana variable we just did.
Right.
And now we do kurtcobain.band. And then we can do dot name. All right.
We gotta save it too, right?
Okay. So if we go back to our SQLite, and I'm going to query the database. Now we have Kurt Cobain. There's a band there.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just showing the band ID, but this corresponds to the band, right? Let's do this for the rest of them. So who's next? Is Gene? Okay. Gene, let's do kiss first. Kiss equals, what am I typing?
Band.objects.get name equals kiss.
Okay, and now we'll have to get Gene. We'll say Gene Simmons equals what?
Musician.objects.get name equals Gene Simmons.
Perfect. And now what am I doing?
Set Gene Simmons dot band equal to kiss.
Okay.
And then save.
Save Kiss or save Gene Simmons? Sorry, I just gave you guys.
Save Gene
I just gave you guys the answer. Okay. So let's go back here, requery. Now Gene Simmons has a band. All right. Let's do the last one for Jimmy. Led Zeppelin equals band.objects.get. Let's do filter this time.
What's the difference again?
So filter's going to return a query set.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a list basically. It's just acting like an array. So now let's say Led Zeppelin. See, that's a query set that it contains a band object. But now this is a good point where if we filter it, are we going to be able to directly assign this Led Zeppelin band to Jimmy Page? So if we did Jimmy Page equals musician.objects.get name equals Jimmy Page. Okay? How would we do this now? Because now we don't have an instance anymore, we just have the query set. So we wouldn't be able to just say Jimmy Page dot band equals Led Zeppelin.
Do you use filter at all?
What do you mean?
Like, would you use the command filter at all?
Sometimes, yeah. Or I mean, actually, a lot of the time you use filter.
No, but I mean for this line.
Oh, you wouldn't use filter again. Okay. So we have a query set that has the band in there, right? It's right here. So how would we actually access that? So do you guys remember dot first? So we could do Led Zeppelin dot first, and this will return the first instance in this query set. There's only one, so that's just how that's a way to access it, right? Let's do Jimmy Page dot save. And now we go back here. Perfect. All right.
If we filter it and it comes out with multiple bands, what would happen?
It'd be fine, and if you did dot first, it would just get the first one in the query set.
Okay.
Right. But in this situation, right, you probably want band names to be unique. Not necessarily. You just have to make sure, like, let's say there was another band that decided, like, I want to be called Led Zeppelin, right? And you put that in your database, and you have 2 Led Zeppelins. You just need some other, like, field to distinguish the two. Like, maybe year established, right?
Right.
So the first Led Zeppelin would be established there, so you'd have, like, another filter. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, well, like I said, I wanted to complicate this a little bit.
So Taylor Swift has no band.
Yeah, exactly. She's null, right?
And now we have Dave.
Yep. We're going to do Dave Grohl now, right? Like that. Position.objects.create name equals Dave Grohl. Is there an E in there?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Let's say a instrument equals what vocal?
Everything.
All, okay. And then age, I think he's like, what, 48 or something now?
50.
Wow.
Whoa.
Alrighty. So now we have Dave Grohl. What band is Dave Grohl in?
Nirvana,
Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters.
He's in Foo Fighters right now. So let's create Foo Fighters. And remember, this when you do .create, it'll actually return it. Okay, so if we did Dave Grohl right now,
It'll be that.
what you just created. You could do it alone, like what we were doing. I think up there where we would create something. It was returning, but we just weren't saving it in an instant. So this saves us the extra step of creating it and then requerying the database. All right, let's double check it's here. Perfect. So we have to create a new band called Foo Fighters, which equals band.objects.create, name equals Foo Fighters. What are the other? Genre equals grunge too? Or would you
Rock,
say,
I would say more rock.
rock?
Yeah.
Rock, year established equals 98. We'll just say 1998. Sounds about right. All right. So now we have that. We could do something like this. Foo Fighters. Oh, I cannot spell. Dave Grohl. .save. All right. Let's go back to our database. Now we have that. But the elephant in the room is that he was also in Nirvana. Okay? So what do we want to do?
We have to create a mini relationship.
So band is actually not a foreign key. Okay? It's a many to many. Okay? And it's cool because it tells you all the arguments. Okay? So let's get rid of all this. Right? We can just send band, I believe. So let's go over to many. So they use the example of a book and publisher, right? I guess a book can be published by many.
Yeah, because algebra books have 5 different authors.
Those authors, right? But do they have multiple publishers?
Oh.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess.
Maybe that's what they meant.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's what they. I guess, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so books can have many publishers. So it's a many to many field, and it's book. So they put it in publisher, and it points to books. Okay. So in this situation, what are we gonna do? I already typed it, so I'm sorry I gave you the answer. But musician has a band. That's a field band. That's a many to many. Okay. So the way you do that is, once again, you query the two, and you can just.
Related name.
Hmm.
Related name.
Yeah, that's how you access it later. I don't want to get into that right now.
Oh.
I just want to do the basics. But when you get to that point, we'll talk about it. Okay. Alrighty. Questions so far? Well, since we changed it, I'm gonna save it. Let's migrate, right? So, but in briefly speaking, related name is how you like actually access the different relationships.
Right. Okay.
No, we want a shell now. Let's requery. Why? Okay. So now, notice that we dropped that band ID. Okay. Let's start adding relationships to, we'll say Dave Grohl. Okay. So let's query Dave Grohl. Musician.objects.get name equals Dave Grohl. Happens to the best of us. That was actually, sorry, I take that back. That was a test, Ivan.
That was a test. I failed.
All right. Dave Grohl.name. Perfect. Queried it. All good. Now let's query the two bands we want to add. What do we want to add?
Nirvana.
Nirvana.
Foo Fighters should already be in there, I think, right?
Oh, sorry, not model. Yeah, both of them are. Wait, did we?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Did we
Nirvana.
add Foo Fighters? We did, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay. Band.objects.get name equals Nirvana. Foo Fighters equals band.objects.get name equals Foo Fighters. Okay, so now we have Nirvana and Foo Fighters. We have to add Dave. So now Dave Grohl has name. Dave Grohl has band. We technically should have named this bands.
Right.
Would have made more sense in hindsight. Okay, but at the time being, we'll just say Dave Grohl equals band, and it's a many manager. But basically, we have access now to add things to his bands. Okay, so if we do Dave Grohl .band.add, we can now add Nirvana.
That's cool.
We could also add Foo Fighters.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, now if we do Dave Grohl, now let's iterate it through, right? For Dave Grohl, oh sorry, no. For band in Dave Grohl dot band, I believe that's it. Yeah, band. You might have to do all, but yeah, okay. It's dot all. Okay. Right. So this is once again we have to do dot all. So now we have it's basically how you would do like band.objects.all. That's how you access the band like within there, right? So now you have access to all of his bands just by doing that. So if we do this again, band.name. Okay.
Cool.
Questions so far? Okay. So one thing I do want to do real fast though is show you, and this is optional, but I want to show you a better way to you know what? I don't want to overcomplicate it. Sorry, I take that back. But if you want, eventually, I'll show you. Like, you know how we just print band and it says band object? It's kind of like ugly, and we would like to instead of having to do like band.name every time.
We wanted to override the string
Hey,
t-shirt.
yeah, have you looked into it?
I think we did that yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it does tell us in the modules.
Does it? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. Questions, comments, concerns?
Could you just show us how to download the SQLite?
Yeah. Okay, let me. But other than the Django relationships, everyone good? Django's good with like relationships, I think, because it's pretty self-explanatory.
This looks way easier than my
Yeah, exactly. That's the power of the ORM, right? Like it takes care of everything for you.
I really don't like using MySQL.
Especially like adding relationships. Like
Yeah.
this is crazy. Like a many to many.
Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
weird to handle.
Yeah. Okay.